Hello, everybody. My name is Alexei Krabarov, and I'm the AI community architect at Neo4j, the graph database company, now GenAI and Knowledge Graph company as well. And here with me, I have Lisa Kao, who is a product manager at Data Strata, and we are at Data Days Texas, a beautiful community conference in Austin, Texas. So we flew all the way from Bay Area to be here and talk about community, AI, and everything else. And Lisa runs an amazing meetup where I'm going to speak a few weeks from now. And so tell us, first of all, like, how did you come to Bay Area? How did you get to, start this meetup? Like, tell us a little bit how you found your path in AI.
Yeah, thank you for the amazing introduction. So I first moved to San Francisco like about a year ago, so not super long. And I noticed that a lot of the meetups that were around were specifically targeted at AI RAG development, like vector databases, specifically like around workflows. But I'm a very big architecture person. I like working on production level systems and understanding how different components fit together. And I'm a data engineer first and foremost. And so I really wanted to create a meetup that was really senior tailored, talked very deep into architectural levels and production level systems, and gave people really big ideas for their next platform. So that's why we wanted to have really experienced speakers come in.
I mean, this is amazing, right? Because like Lisa says, she's here a year. I thought she was here 100 years because like there has been so many fun events, and the meetup is called After Party. So I thought, like, how can you miss an after party, right? And there is a bunch of other partners and co-organizers, and it's always a fun thing. So like, how did you find your co-organizers? How did you find all these partners? How did this all come together?
So our meetup was originally called the Open Source After Party. And I think that gave people the signal that, you know what, this isn't just a normal vendor pitch. These are people working on real open source projects who are part of the community, who want to share the projects that they're working on and the new features that are coming out. And I think that gave us a lot of credit within the engineering community specifically. And so once we had one or two, more people started coming. I mean, Neo4j came, and they noticed that these meetups that we were having were really great in terms of the technical content. And I think that just attracts like-minded people. And now we have more and more people always asking to speak or to come hang out and to enjoy themselves. So I'm very happy about that.
I mean, I'm really surprised, right? Because like meetups generally take a long time to build, and so Lisa's have like 500 RSVPs. Mine has the similar amount, of course, like 100 people show up.
Yes.
So, but it's still good. Like it's a good, recipe to show ratio. So, and you are at the same time, you're a data engineer at Data Strata. So, tell us a little bit about Data Strata and what does it do?
So we're the creators of an open source data catalog called Apache Gravitino.
Yes.
And this metadata management space and the REST catalogs are so popular right now because so many tools across the stack end to end, and none of it works together, right? You need to be able to have one point to manage it all, and that's sort of what we're aiming to do as a catalog of catalogs model. We also extend into the AI ML stack as well. So we do things like model management, file set management, all under one tool. And I think that's the idea, is that data engineering teams have their own stack, ML teams have their own stack. How can we create a common language and tool for both to be able to have the same level to then, provide governance in that level? Yeah.
So for folks who are not familiar with the catalogs, can you explain briefly, like, what's the point of the catalog? Why people should actually pay attention to catalogs?
So let's say you have many different formats or files around in different storage systems. You need to be able to have a catalog to manage that metadata so you can know exactly what data you have. And that metadata can oftentimes be very useful, sometimes more useful than the data itself, because it tells you who owns the data, what quality is the data in, when was it last updated, much, much, much like really valuable information that allows us to streamline and optimize our workflows.
Yeah. And I mean, it's interesting because I met your co-founder Jinping.
Yes.
At a DuckDB party, right? And he told me all about this, and I'm like, dude, like this is all very cool. Like we should know more about this, right? Like the data engineering remains a core backbone of AI, but a lot of people are focusing on like what's happening in the notebook, so that happens in the model.
Yes.
So can you talk a little bit about like what do you see like Apache Iceberg, obviously, you need to maintain a lot of data. What do you see like happening across the stack, right? Like model is just, Colab is a part of it, but like what's happening in the open source for full stack open source applications, and like where is all this work happening? Who are the users of the Gravitino, right? Like who are coming to you for this?
I think one of the big trends that we've seen, especially in the last 5 to 10 years, is separation of storage and compute. Bring your own engine, bring your own data, bring your own cloud. really understanding what components we have control over of our data and democratizing that so that we can regain control over vendors. And this is something that's really important in the open source community. That's why lake houses are so important as well. So we can have an open data architecture. Interoperability is a huge point of this. So if you have something like a catalog, you need to make sure that you're supporting many different engines so that it's interoperable with the rest of the stack. And then you can do your federated querying towards all of your sources, whether it's Iceberg, Hudi, Paimon, Kafka topics, etc. And this is really important so that people can manage the data the way that they need to. The metadata is not locked somewhere where you then have to pay for it, and you have that control.
So the keynote today was about metadata.
Yes.
Right. So that was interesting to me. It's like it was very philosophical, right? So what do you think about this like decentralized world of metadata? Is this where we're going? That people will have different pools of metadata and like they'll figure out where everything is? Is this the future?
I think one of the great points of Ola's talk specifically was that you're going to be living with multiple catalogs at once, right? There's no way to really get around it. So how can you manage multiple catalogs in a way, whether it's a grid or a lake sort of architecture for your metadata, to be able to manage it? So what we do at Gravitino is that we sit on top of different catalogs and we push down in terms of the operations. And this is really great because then you have more flexibility in that system. It's like a metadata fabric almost. And I see that very much like a metadata grid. And it can support either a centralized or decentralized use case. And as long as you have a team that's good at maintaining it, then you'll be in a good spot. Yeah.
So what do you think of, the catalogs and agentic systems? How do the agents interplay with catalogs?
I think there's so many really interesting ways for this to go. Personally, I think that agents are going to directly work on the catalog. I think that they're going to be able to pull data, and depending on how that catalog is managed, you can have AI governance through that, right? This agent can only access this piece of data because we've given it permission to, and then we can use further tagging to make sure that it's getting the right data that we want. Same thing with using agents to maintain that catalog itself, which is a really interesting idea from this morning, actually. And that's going to help us really create this dynamic system where we can have maintainable metadata and something that's governable, which I think is really important these days.
How do you think agents will find what data is, right? It's like, because like we need something like DNS, we need the root,
yes,
right? How do I find where all the catalogs are? Where do I go to do that?
Well, I think it's really important for us, at least as data engineers, to extend ourselves into the Python stack to have this work. So Gravitino has an integration with Llama Hub, so you can directly connect to Llama Index to pull from Gravitino, and it's like connecting to a data source. This is really exciting because from a user perspective, it's very easy to use and work with. And you can use the Python client, and then all of the actual logic is handled by maybe your data infrastructure team. So then typically when we look at developing AI, we don't want to think about that sort of stuff that you mentioned, right? We don't want to think about the networking. We don't want to think about the partitions. We just want to query and go. And this is a really huge issue in many organizations that are dealing with, say, many namespaces. They have data stored all over the place. So you really have to distill it down into as easy of a possible route. Yeah.
Cool. So I'll just, to shift gears and like talk about life. So you cover Vancouver,
yes,
right? And I love Vancouver. So like I would rather go to Vancouver if I could do that. I would move to Vancouver, but we're in the center of the world for AI, so we have to be in Bay Area. So what are the cultural differences? Like you were in tech and you were in Vancouver. So like, can you talk a little bit about like how you see Silicon Valley with fresh eyes, right? Is this really all has to happen here? Like, what's going on in Vancouver? Like, what do you think of the tech scenes and cultures in different places?
So I was a really big part of the Vancouver data scene for a very long time. I ran many communities there. And I think that people are very much hungry for data communities and tech communities in Vancouver specifically. But a lot of the companies that are in Vancouver, they're there because maybe Canadians are a little bit cheaper than Bay Area engineers, right?
Yep.
And we're seeing a shift there with remote work where this culture is starting to pick up a little bit more. More engineers are starting to be hired there. We're seeing it grow. Unfortunately, I think that we'll never beat the sunshine of the Bay Area compared to the rainy Vancouver. But, we can steal a few engineers here and there from Seattle, and I think it'll grow really big in the next few years.
Yeah, I'd like to figure out, because I went to the Open Source Summit in Vancouver. I loved it. Right, it's wonderful. It's really, really cool. So we should figure out more excuses to go to Vancouver.
I would be happy to. I still, help run things in Vancouver as well. So I'm always happy to come back.
And the convention center is the best, right? Because you land in a little plane from Seattle, on the water, and you walk up to the. So we should, do more of these events. Okay, so so you're in the community, you're in the open source, right? So we're basically in the same boat. how do we make open source AI succeed this year? Like, what do you see needs to happen for Data Strata? We're now in Linux Foundation together, right? Neo4j just joined, so we're general members. Like, what do you think, for instance, just like in terms of Linux Foundation, what do you think should we do in Linux Foundation in a place like this to promote open source AI?
I think outreach is really the key, and I don't just say that because I'm part of the outreach committee at LFAI and Data, but because so many of these tools that are low code, easy pop up, you just implement AI without understanding what's going on in the hood, makes this development so it's tempting, right? To use all these tools and you don't understand exactly what's happening. It's just an API call and then you pay. But there's a lot of danger in using tools like that, especially if you don't understand. And so it's up to us as developers to lower the barrier of entry into using open source tools, making our developer experience as amazing as possible, really making sure that we're able to reach developers who are not necessarily contributors, but who are just starting out and being more junior friendly.
Fantastic. I agree with everything like that. And so let's make it all happen in this year. So happy to work with you at LFAI, in the community, and everywhere else.
Absolutely. Me too.
Thanks.
Well, thank you so much.